Call whoever you want, the officer said with a slow, dismissive grin, the kind that lingered too long, like he had already decided how this would end. And the red and blue lights painted the wet pavement in restless streaks as Ava Johnson stood beside her car, rain tapping softly against the hood, her phone resting in her palm like something heavier than it looked, something that carried more than just a call, more than just a voice. And she didn't argue, didn't raise her tone, didn't match his energy. She simply lifted the phone to her ear and dialed, her fingers precise, controlled, like muscle memory shaped by years of pressure. Go ahead, Officer Ryan Blake added, folding his arms, the faint hum of passing traffic stretching out behind him. Nobody's coming for you tonight. And the other officers shifted nearby, their silhouettes relaxed, unconcerned, as if this moment had already been decided before it even began. But Ava didn't look at them, her gaze fixed somewhere beyond. The flashing lights, somewhere further down the road where time felt thinner, more fragile. Stay with him, she said quietly into the phone, her voice low but unwavering. Don't let him drift. I'm on my way. And for a brief second the air changed, subtle, almost unnoticeable, like the pressure before a storm fully breaks. But Blake didn't catch it. Or maybe he did and chose to ignore it, stepping closer, boots pressing into the damp asphalt. You're not going anywhere, he said, softer now, but firmer, as if repeating it made it real. And Ava lowered the phone just slightly, her breath steady, her shoulders relaxed in a way that didn't match the situation. Not fear, not defiance, something else, something grounded, something that didn't bend under noise. And the rain began to fall harder, droplets striking the pavement in quick, scattered rhythms. The sound blending with the low crackle of the police radio clipped to Blake's shoulder, voices overlapping, distant and fragmented. And still Ava stood there, unmoved, as if anchored to something deeper than the moment unfolding around her, her grip tightening just slightly around the phone, her thumb brushing against the edge of the screen, waiting, listening, calculating in silence while the lights kept spinning and the night stretched wider. And somewhere far off, almost too faint to notice, a siren echoed through the dark, not close enough yet to matter, but close enough to exist. And Ava's eyes flickered just once toward the sound before settling again, calm, certain, like she already knew something no one else here did. The rain thickened into a steady curtain, blurring the glow of the streetlights into long streaks of gold across the windshield, as Ava Johnson remained exactly where she stood, her breathing measured, her attention split between the voice on the phone and the distant rhythm of that approaching siren, each second stretching longer than it should, each second carrying weight. Talk to me, she said softly, her voice low and controlled, the kind of tone that did not allow panic to exist. Is his breathing steady? And the answer on the other end came fast, uneven, filled with fear that leaked through every word. And Ava closed her eyes for just a fraction of a second, not to escape, but to focus, to pull every ounce of training and instinct into a single thread of clarity, because she had heard that tone before, too many times, in rooms filled with fluorescent light and machines that never stopped beeping. And every time it meant the same thing. Time was slipping, and there was no space for hesitation. Behind her, Officer Blake shifted his stance, impatience starting to replace amusement, his jaw tightening as he watched her, as if the calm she carried made no sense to him. You are still here, he said, more firmly now, his voice cutting through the sound of the rain. But Ava did not respond. Not to him, not to the movement of the officers around her, her world narrowing to the voice in her ear, to the fragile connection holding someone else on the edge. Listen carefully, she continued, her tone steady but urgent beneath the surface. Keep his head tilted slightly. Make sure his airway stays open. Do not let him fall asleep. Her words precise, practiced, the kind of instructions that came from repetition, from long nights and harder mornings. And for a moment even the space around her seemed to pause, as if the weight of what she was saying pushed against everything else. One of the officers glanced at Blake, uncertainty flickering briefly across his face, but Blake dismissed it with a small shake of his head, unwilling to shift his perspective, unwilling to believe that anything unfolding here could be more than what he had already decided. The radio at his shoulder crackled again, a burst of static followed by a voice that spoke too quickly to fully understand. and he reached to adjust it, distracted for just a second. And in that second, the distant siren grew louder, clearer, no longer just a background echo but a presence moving toward them, slicing through the night with increasing urgency. Ava's eyes opened again, her gaze steady, her posture unchanged. But there was a quiet intensity now, something sharper beneath the calm, because she could hear it too. She could feel the distance closing, and she knew exactly what it meant. Stay with me, she said into the phone, softer now, almost like a promise. And the rain continued to fall, heavier, faster, each drop striking the ground like a ticking clock, while Officer Blake looked up toward the road, just for a moment, his expression tightening as the sound of the siren reached a pitch that could no longer be ignored, something shifting, subtle but real, as the situation began to move beyond his control without him even realizing it. The siren grew louder, no longer distant, no longer abstract, but real and closing fast, cutting through the rain with a sharp urgency that changed the air itself. And Ava Johnson lifted her chin slightly, her eyes tracking the direction of the sound as it echoed between the buildings, her mind already calculating distance, seconds, outcomes, while the voice on the phone trembled again. He is getting quieter. And that was the moment everything narrowed even further, because quiet was never a good sign. Not in situations like this, not when every breath mattered. No, Ava said immediately, her tone firmer now, anchored. Keep talking to him. Do not let him drift. Say his name. Keep him here with you. And the rain tapped harder against the pavement, faster, louder, like a metronome pushing the moment forward. Officer Ryan Blake turned toward the road again, his eyes scanning the darkness as the flashing lights of an approaching vehicle finally broke through the rain, reflections dancing across the wet asphalt. And for the first time there was a pause in him, a flicker of hesitation that did not belong to authority. One of the other officers stepped closer, lowering his voice. That sounds like an ambulance. But Blake did not answer right away, his attention shifting between Ava and the road, something not aligning in the narrative he had already constructed, because this was supposed to be simple, controlled, contained, and now it was not. Now something else was entering the frame, something that did not ask for permission. Ava exhaled slowly, steadying herself, her fingers tightening around the phone as she listened, adjusting her instructions with precision. If he stops responding, tap his shoulder gently. Keep stimulation. Do not let the silence take over. Her words calm but edged with urgency that could not be ignored, and the voice on the other end followed her guidance, shaky but trying, holding on to her words like they were the only thing keeping the moment from slipping completely away. The ambulance lights grew brighter, washing over the scene in white and red, overpowering the police lights for just a second, and Blake took a step back without realizing it, his posture shifting, his control thinning in a way he could not fully explain, because the presence of that vehicle meant something had been set in motion long before he understood it. Ava lowered the phone just slightly, listening to both worlds at once, the one in her ear and the one unfolding around her, and then she moved, just one step toward her car, subtle but deliberate, her intention clear without words, and Blake reacted instantly, stepping forward again. Stay where you are, he said, but his voice lacked the same certainty as before, because now there were too many variables, too many unknowns pressing in from all sides, and Ava met his gaze for the first time, not with defiance, not with anger, but with something far more unsettling, clarity, the kind that comes from knowing exactly what matters and what does not, the kind that does not ask for permission. And in that moment the ambulance pulled closer, its engine rumbling low as it slowed, its presence undeniable, reshaping the space between them, and Blake felt it, that shift, that quiet realization that whatever this situation was, it was no longer his to define, not anymore. The ambulance rolled to a stop just 20 feet away, its headlights cutting through the rain in harsh white beams that flattened every shadow on the street. And for a brief second no one moved, not the officers, not Ava, not even the figures inside the vehicle, as if the moment itself needed to catch up to what was happening. Then the engine idled low, steady, and the back door swung open with a dull metallic sound that echoed louder than it should have. Two paramedics stepping out quickly, but without panic, their movements efficient, focused, and one of them glanced toward Ava first, Not the officers, not the flashing patrol lights, but her, as if they already knew exactly who she was, and Ava lifted her phone slightly, her voice still calm as she spoke into it. They are there now. You did good. Stay on the line until they reach him. Her words softer now, controlled in a different way, guiding the final seconds of something fragile toward stability. Officer Blake frowned, confusion tightening across his face as he watched the paramedics move with purpose past him, not asking questions, not waiting for clearance. One of them already speaking into a radio, relaying details that did not come from anything Blake had said, because he had not said anything. He had not even understood what was unfolding until now, and that realization settled heavily in his chest, subtle but undeniable. Ma'am, one of the paramedics called out, respectful, direct. We have him on route, 2 minutes out from your location. And Ava nodded once, her posture shifting just slightly, tension releasing in a controlled exhale as she processed the update. While the other officers exchanged quick glances, their earlier confidence replaced with something quieter, uncertainty. Because the scene no longer belonged to them, not in the way it had minutes ago, Blake stepped forward again, but slower this time, less certain. What is going on? He asked, not as a command, but as a question that he could not quite mask. And Ava finally turned fully toward him, rain sliding down her face, her expression steady, composed, and for the first time he saw something he had missed before, not fear, not defiance, but authority of a different kind, earned, quiet, undeniable. Someone is running out of time, she said simply, her voice level, without accusation, without emotion, just truth. And that truth landed heavier than anything else in the air, because it reframed everything. Every second that had passed, every delay, every assumption. The ambulance lights continued to spin, casting long arcs of red and white across the scene, blending with the fading police lights in a rhythm that no longer felt controlled, no longer predictable. And Blake looked past Ava, toward the open ambulance doors, toward the equipment already prepared, toward the urgency that did not ask for permission, and something shifted inside him again, deeper this time. The weight of realizing that the situation had never been about control, never been about authority, but about something far more immediate, something he had almost overlooked completely. Ava lowered her phone slowly, listening to the voice on the other end one last time. Stay with him, she repeated, quieter now. Before ending the call, her hand lingering for just a moment before dropping to her side, and then she moved again, one step closer to her car, deliberate, purposeful, not rushing, not hesitating, because now the path forward was clear, and behind her the rain kept falling, steady and unrelenting, washing the street in a quiet rhythm that seemed to echo the seconds that had nearly been lost. The moment stretched thin, almost fragile, as Ava Johnson reached for her car door, her fingers brushing the handle with quiet certainty. But Officer Ryan Blake stepped forward again, not with the same sharp authority as before, but with something heavier, something uncertain. Wait, he said, the word coming slower. Now, less like an order and more like a need to understand what had already slipped beyond him. The rain continued to fall in steady sheets, tapping against the metal of the ambulance and the hood of Ava's car, filling the silence between them with a soft but relentless rhythm. Ava paused, just for a second, not turning fully, not engaging, but allowing the moment to exist, and Blake looked at her differently now, really looked, as if trying to piece together everything he had missed, her calm, her precision, the way the paramedics had moved toward her without hesitation, the way the call had never sounded like fear, but like direction, like leadership. You said someone is running out of time, he continued, his voice lower, the edges of certainty gone, replaced by something quieter, almost careful, and Ava turned her head slightly, rain tracing along her jawline, her expression still composed, still grounded. Yes, she answered, simple, direct, no explanation offered, because the truth did not need to be stretched or softened. And Blake hesitated, the question forming before he could stop it. Who are you? And for a brief second the world seemed to narrow again, not with tension, but with clarity, because that question carried more weight now than it would have just minutes ago. Ava looked at him fully this time, her gaze steady, not challenging, not defensive, just present. I am the one making sure he gets a chance, she said, and the words landed with a quiet force. That shifted something deeper inside him, because it was not about titles, not about position, not about authority. It was about responsibility, the kind that does not wait for permission, the kind that steps forward when everything else hesitates. Behind them, the paramedics were already preparing, one of them speaking quickly into a device, coordinating with the incoming unit, their voices low but urgent. And the siren that had once been distant was now right there, layered into the scene like a pulse that could not be ignored. Blake glanced toward the ambulance again, then back at Ava, his thoughts catching up too late, every second that had passed replaying in a different light, every assumption unraveling. The officers behind him stood quieter now, their earlier confidence replaced with stillness, watching, learning without saying it out loud. Ava opened her car door slowly, the soft click almost lost beneath the rain, and for a moment she paused again, her hand resting against the frame, as if measuring the distance between what had happened and what still needed to be done. You delayed me, she said, not harsh, not accusing, just factual, and that truth carried more weight than anger ever could. Blake's shoulders shifted slightly, the words settling into him in a way that could not be dismissed, not now, not after what he had seen, not after what he had begun to understand. And for the first time he did not respond, did not push back, did not try to reclaim control, because there was nothing left to control. Ava stepped into her car, the interior light flickering on briefly before fading as the door closed, sealing her into a space that felt quieter, more focused, and outside the rain kept falling, steady and constant, washing over everything that had just changed. Blake stood there, unmoving, as the ambulance lights reflected across his uniform, the sound of the siren blending with the rain. And in that moment he realized something he could not undo, that this had never been about stopping someone. It had been about letting someone go, and he had almost made the wrong choice. Inside the car, the world shifted into a different kind of silence, softer but sharper at the same time. The rain now a muted rhythm against the windshield as Ava Johnson placed both hands on the steering wheel, her fingers steady, her breath measured, the engine idling beneath her like a low hum waiting for direction. And for a moment, she did not move, not because she hesitated, but because she was listening, replaying every word from the call, every change in tone, every second that had passed, calculating again, adjusting again, because even now the outcome was not guaranteed. Outside, the flashing lights painted the interior in brief pulses of red and white, cutting across her face, across the dashboard, then fading, then returning, like a heartbeat that had not yet settled. She reached for her phone again, her thumb hovering for just a second before pressing the screen, reconnecting, not waiting for it to ring. Tell me where they are now, she said immediately, her voice calm but tighter now, focused in a way that carried urgency without panic. The answer came clearer this time, closer, movement in the background, voices layered but organized, and Ava nodded slightly to herself, mapping it in her mind, distance shrinking, time narrowing. Good, she said quietly. Stay with them. I will meet you there. And she ended the call with a precise motion, no extra second wasted, no hesitation, her hand returning to the wheel as her eyes lifted toward the road ahead. The rain had intensified, turning the street into a reflective surface that stretched out in shimmering lines, and beyond it the ambulance was already repositioning, its engine revving slightly as it prepared to move. The paramedics working quickly, efficiently, no wasted motion. Ava inhaled once, deep and controlled, then shifted the car into drive, the movement smooth, deliberate, as if every action had already been decided before it happened. Outside, Officer Blake stood still, his figure blurred slightly through the rain and glass, but she could feel his presence even without looking directly at him, could feel the weight of what had changed, what he now understood, and what could not be undone. The moment hung there for just a fraction longer. Then Ava turned the wheel and eased forward, the tires rolling through shallow water with a soft hiss, the headlights cutting a clean path ahead. And as she passed the ambulance, one of the paramedics glanced toward her and gave a small nod, not formal, not dramatic, just recognition, and Ava returned it with the slightest movement of her chin before accelerating, the car gaining speed as it merged onto the open road, the siren behind her rising again, louder now, following, aligning with her direction instead of opposing it. And in the rearview mirror, the flashing lights began to shrink, blending into the rain and darkness until they were no longer separate from the night itself. Her focus locked forward, her grip firm, but controlled. Every mile ahead measured not in distance, but in seconds, and somewhere beyond the curve of the road, beyond the reach of those fading lights, someone was still holding on, waiting for the moment she would arrive. The road stretched ahead in long, glistening lines, the rain blurring the edges of everything as Ava Johnson pressed forward, her headlights carving a narrow path through the dark. Every second now counted in distance, every turn measured against the steady rhythm of her breath, and the siren behind her grew closer, not chasing, not opposing, but following, aligned with her direction as if the entire night had shifted to move with her instead of against her. She reached for her phone again, activating the speaker this time, not slowing down, not breaking focus. "Talk to me," she said, her voice steady but edged with urgency that no longer hid beneath calm. And the response came clearer now, closer, the background filled with movement, organized voices, controlled but fast. "We have him," someone said. "He is responsive but weak." And Ava nodded slightly, her eyes locked on the road, adjusting instantly, recalibrating the situation with precision. "Keep him engaged," she instructed, her tone firm, decisive. "Do not let him drift. Keep him responding. Ask simple questions. Keep him anchored." Her words flowing without hesitation, shaped by experience that did not leave room for doubt. The rain intensified for a moment, drumming harder against the roof, the windshield wipers moving faster to keep up, clearing just enough for her to see the next stretch of road, the next turn, the next decision, and ahead, faint at first, then growing clearer, she saw them, the glow of hazard. Lights flickering through the rain, reflecting off the slick pavement in uneven pulses. Her grip tightened slightly on the wheel, her focus narrowing even further as she closed the distance. "I am almost there," she said into the phone, her voice softer now, but more certain, and the figures came into view, silhouettes moving with purpose near the roadside, the outline of the patient barely visible but present. And the ambulance behind her surged forward, its siren rising in intensity as it prepared to take lead, and Ava eased slightly to the side, allowing it to pass. The vehicle rushing ahead in a controlled burst of speed, positioning itself between her and the scene ahead, the choreography precise, practiced, and she followed, slowing just enough to maintain space but not enough to lose momentum, her heart steady, her breathing controlled, her mind already stepping ahead to what needed to happen next. Outside, the rain continued its steady fall, but the scene ahead felt sharper now, more defined, every movement carrying weight, every second still fragile but no longer uncertain, because now she was here, now she was close enough to act. And as her car rolled to a stop just behind the ambulance, the world seemed to tighten into a single point of focus, the door handle cool beneath her hand as she reached for it, ready to step into the moment she had been racing toward, where time, finally, would be met head-on. The door opened and the rain rushed in with it, cool and immediate, but Ava Johnson did not hesitate as her feet hit the pavement, her focus already locked on the figures ahead, the paramedics moving with controlled urgency around the patient, their voices low but precise, each instruction layered on top of the next, and as she approached, one of them glanced up, recognition flashing instantly. "Dr. Johnson," he said, not surprised, not questioning, just confirming what had already been understood. And Ava nodded once, stepping into the circle without breaking stride, her presence shifting the rhythm of the scene in a way that did not need to be announced, because it was felt. "Status?" she asked, her voice steady, grounded, and the paramedic responded immediately, breathing shallow, responsive to voice, but fading. And Ava dropped to one knee beside the patient, the wet pavement cold beneath her, but unnoticed, her attention narrowing completely as she assessed, her movements calm, efficient, her hands precise without rush. "Stay with me," she said, her tone softer now, directed at the patient, anchoring, familiar, the kind of voice that carried weight even in uncertainty. And the patient responded faintly, just enough, just a flicker, but it was there, and Ava nodded slightly, adjusting her approach, guiding the moment forward. "We are not losing him," she said quietly, more to the team than to herself, and the paramedics moved in sync with her, their actions aligning without hesitation. Because the direction was clear, the purpose unified. The rain continued to fall, steady and unrelenting. But it no longer blurred the scene. It became background, a constant that did not interfere. And behind them the ambulance doors remained open, equipment ready, the next step already waiting. Ava lifted her gaze briefly, meeting the eyes of one paramedic, a silent exchange passing between them. Timing, readiness, understanding, and he nodded, already moving to prepare the transfer, the sequence unfolding seamlessly, as if practiced countless times, yet still holding the weight of this single moment. Ava remained steady, her voice continuing to guide, to anchor, to hold the fragile line between slipping and staying. Every word placed carefully, every second accounted for, and in the distance, far behind the rain and fading lights, Officer Blake stood somewhere on that road, no longer part of this moment, but not untouched by it either, because what had begun as something small, something dismissible, had unfolded into something far greater, something that revealed itself too late to ignore. And here, in the rain, under the glow of the ambulance lights, Ava Johnson did what she had always done, not with noise, not with force, but with clarity, with presence, with the quiet strength of someone who understood exactly what mattered. And as the team prepared to move, lifting carefully, transitioning smoothly, Ava rose with them, not stepping back, not stepping away, but moving forward with the moment, carrying it toward what came next, where the outcome had not yet been written, but was still, for now, within reach. The movement into the ambulance was smooth, practiced, the team lifting in unison as Ava Johnson stepped in beside them, the interior lights casting a steady white glow that pushed back the darkness and the rain, the doors closing with a firm sound that sealed the moment inside. And for a second, everything narrowed again, not to chaos, not to noise, but to focus, pure and absolute. The engine idling beneath them, ready, waiting, and Ava positioned herself with quiet precision, her eyes on the patient, her hands steady, her voice calm. "Stay with me," she repeated, softer now, closer, the kind of tone that carried through confusion and pulled something back toward the surface. And there was a response, small but real, a shift that confirmed the fragile line was still holding. The paramedic across from her adjusted quickly, meeting her pace, their coordination seamless, unspoken, built on trust in the moment rather than explanation. And then the vehicle began to move, the slight forward motion blending into the rhythm of the rain as the siren rose again, cutting through the night with renewed urgency. Inside, the ambulance time felt different, compressed, every second measured in action rather than distance. Ava's focus never broke, not when the vehicle turned, not when the lights outside streaked past in blurred lines, not when the radio crackled with updates. Her presence steady, grounding, guiding the space toward a single outcome, and gradually, almost imperceptibly, the tension shifted, the instability easing into something more controlled, more responsive, not safe yet, not certain, but moving in the right direction. And Ava exhaled slowly, not relief, not yet, but recognition that the moment had turned, that the line had held when it could have slipped. And outside, the rain continued, washing over the streets they left behind, over the place where it had all started, where assumptions had nearly cost something that could not be replaced. And back there, under fading lights and a quiet road, Officer Ryan Blake remained, standing still long after the ambulance had disappeared, the sound of the siren lingering in the distance before fading into nothing, his reflection faint in the wet pavement, his posture no longer rigid, no longer certain, because the moment had changed him in a way that could not be undone, not through words, not through routine, but through realization. And he looked down at his hands. For a second, as if seeing them differently, as if understanding the weight they carried, the choices they held, the seconds they controlled without even noticing. And the rain fell steadily around him, not harsh, not dramatic, just constant, washing the night clean in quiet persistence. And somewhere far ahead, beyond the reach of his sight, the ambulance continued forward, carrying with it a life that had almost slipped away, carried by a woman who had never needed recognition to do what was right? Only the clarity to act when it mattered most. And as the road stretched on into the distance, the night settled into a different kind of silence, one that did not erase what had happened, but held it, quietly, as something that would not be forgotten.